Welcome everyone to our November 10th Board of Education meeting. We're doing it a little bit differently tonight in that we're more spread out as we try to enlarge our social distancing in our room. So that sometimes you may hear the person talking but not be able to see their face due to the distance between each of us. So again, we sort of apologize, but we like to show everybody viewing that we do take it very seriously that we stay a minimum of 6 feet apart during these meetings. There will be a couple changes to the agenda that I want to announce right away. First change will be that we'll add a consent agenda, which will follow the approval of the agenda. We can put that in as an ad. And we're going to remove the CIP discussion tonight, and Mr. Wazlowski will inform each of us as to the reason that we've requested the CIP discussion be removed tonight. So that being said, I'll ask our student member to lead us in the pledge after we take a moment of silence to once again, as each of you have seen, our nation is experiencing a tremendous spike in our pandemic, and I'm sure each of us know some people that we need to remember and things that perhaps we need to focus on going forward. So please rise for a moment of silence, followed by my pledge.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order is the adoption of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
And motion's been made to approve the agenda with those changes notified earlier. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Rodney. Motion by Matthew, second by Rodney. Discussion?
You can give it a moniker.
Mrs. Rinker that did the second.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Rinker. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor of the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those approved, nay. And the agenda is approved. We will now have the consent agenda. Do I have hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion made by Matthew. Is there a second for the consent agenda?
Second.
Seconded by Charlotte. All those in favor of the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay, with a nay? I hear none. And I ask the superintendent to elaborate a little bit about the consent agenda.
Yes, thank you. Our interim director of special education, Dr. Chelsea Mangus, has satisfied all of her requirements and has been certified by MSDE for her A&S. So we are removing the interim title, and she will now be director of special education, Dr. Chelsea Mangus. So I believe she's here, so when we see her, we'll be nice to congratulate her.
We certainly will. That's quite a endeavor she had to go through to get all of that.
It was,
we
yes.
applaud her for staying with it, and certainly we're very, very fortunate to have her as the person in charge of special education.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
The approval of the October 13 public session minutes, you take a second to look those over and see if there's any corrections or additions or concerns regarding those minutes, please. Yes, Monica.
Under announcements, the last paragraph, Mrs. Baker also announced that November 6th, 2020 is the Gcps Spirit Day. The Northern High and Southern High football game is at 6 p.m. at Northern High's new turf field. Could we put on there that was what, the ribbon cutting ceremony, or what was the word you want to use?
We did a field dedication?
Yes, field dedication. Should we put that on there? That was also celebrated.
Sure. Yes. Thank you.
And I had another one. When you look at under 5, new business, C, enrollment and revenue estimates, and there's some information on there, but on the handout and the presentation we had from Ms. Schweitzer, it said from September 30th, 2019 to September 30th, 2020, we had a decline of approximately 135 students. Could we have that added on there? That was in the presentation we got from her. I mean, it doesn't say that, but I'd like to have that added.
Where are we at?
On 5, new business, number C, enrollment and revenue estimates.
Sure, exactly how would you like that worded, Bonnie?
Well, that was on the thing. It just said we have a decline in students approximately 135 from September 30th, 2019 to September 30th, 2020.
You have that? Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any other additions, subtractions, concerns? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to accept the amended, minutes as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Monica, second.
Second.
Second by Charlotte. Further discussion? All those in favor of the amended minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the minutes are approved. And now we'll go to the, October 16th minutes. Questions, concerns about those minutes? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to accept the, Friday, October 16th minutes? So moved by Charlotte, second.
Second.
By Rodney, seconded by Rodney. Those in favor of the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And it is 4-0 vote. And now, closed session summaries and announcements by the superintendent.
All right, thank you. The Board of Education met in executive session on Tuesday, October 13th, 2020 at 4:01 p.m. under Authority 3-305 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss the following items. Review of executive session minutes, personnel topics pursuant to 3-305B1, negotiation topics pursuant to 3-305B9, and administrative function topics. Monica Rinker made a motion to move to executive session, and Matthew Paw seconded the motion. Thereafter, the board unanimously voted to close the session with a yay vote from Rodney Gotfelty, Monica Rinker, Matthew Paw, and Charlotte Siebold. The topics discussed in the closed session included the following. September 15, 2020, executive session minutes. The board discussed revisions to the minutes. Matthew Paw made a motion to accept the amended minutes, and Charlotte Siebold seconded the motion. Final resolution, motion carried with yay votes from Monica Rinker, Rodney Gotfelty, Charlotte Siebold, and Matthew Paw. Personnel, certificated staffing recommendations. Dr. Jane Wilderson, Director of Human Resources and Employee Relations, presented certificated staffing recommendations to the board. The board discussed the recommendations and voted on this matter in public session. Update, Dr. Wilderson provided the board with a list of non-certified staffing that were recently hired. These updates were informational items, and the board did not take action on this matter. Negotiations, reopening response to GCA. Dr. Wilderson provided an update on an MOU request that was received from the Garrett County Education Association regarding the reopening of schools. She provided a draft letter to be sent to GCA in response to their request. The board requested amendments to the letter. Matthew Paw made a motion to approve the amended letter, and Charlotte Siebold seconded the motion. The board unanimously voted to approve the amended letter with a yea vote from Rodney Gotfelty, Monica Rinker, Matthew Paw, and Charlotte Siebold. Update, Dr. Wilderson summarized updates to the healthcare prescription plan as of October 1st, 2020, based on recent correspondence received by local pharmacies. She stated that staff will also be notified of the updates based on recent concerns and questions. The board considered this information but did not take any action on the topic. Administrative function. The board discussed various administrative function topics. The board considered these topics but did not take any action on these items. Recess and adjournment. Matthew Paw made a motion to adjourn the executive session, and Rodney Gotfelty seconded the motion. The board adjourned the executive session at 6:05 p.m. Mr. Tom Woods, Board President, Mrs. Monica Rinker, Board Vice President, and Board members Mrs. Charlotte Siebold, Mr. Rodney Gotfelty, and Dr. Matthew Paw were in attendance. Also in attendance for part or all of the meeting were Mrs. Barbara Baker, Superintendent, Mr. Brandon Hoover, Board Attorney, Mrs. Karen DeVore, Executive Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Administration, Dr. Jane Wilderson, Director of Human Resources, and Mrs. Karen Brewer, Executive Assistant to Superintendent. Mr. Robert Stevens, Garrett County Health Officer, and Dr. Jennifer Corder, Garrett County Deputy Health Officer, participated in part of the meeting via video conference. October 16, 2020 board meeting. The Board of Education met in executive session on Friday, October 16, 2020 at the Green Turtle Restaurant at 12:01 p.m. under Authority 3-305 of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland to discuss the following items: personnel topic pursuant to 3-305B1. Rodney Gotfeldy made a motion to close the meeting, and this was seconded by Matthew Paugh. Thereafter, the board unanimously voted to close the session with a yea vote for Monica Rinker, Charlotte Siebold, Rodney Gotfeldy, and Matthew Paugh. The board discussed and completed the superintendent evaluation. Adjournment. Matthew Paugh made a motion to adjourn the executive session, and Charlotte Siebold seconded the motion. The board unanimously approved adjourning the executive session at 3:30 p.m. with a yea vote from Rodney Gotfeldy, Charlotte Siebold, Monica Rinker, and Matthew Paugh. Board members present included Mr. Tom Woods, Board President, Mrs. Monica Rinker, Vice President, Board members Mr. Rodney Gotfeldy, Dr. Matthew Paugh, and Charlotte Siebold. Announcements. Today was the end of the first grading period. November 12th, there'll be executive session at the Green Turtle Restaurant at 12 p.m. November 17th will be the release of report cards. November 26th and 27th will be the Thanksgiving holiday. December 8th is our next regular board meeting, and December 10th is the May new board member orientation virtual meeting from 9 to 12 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now move to guidelines for public comment. Garrett County Board of Education is pleased to receive comments and ideas from our public pertaining to the policies, procedures, and/or practices of the school system. We ask that comments be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per individual, unless otherwise considered by the board president. There will be no discussion or action taken at this meeting, but may be considered at a future meeting. Issues that are specific to individual employees should be referred to the immediate supervisors for appropriate consideration and review. Rude, slanderous, or threatening remarks or other behavior that is disruptive or interferes with the order of the meeting is not permitted. We do have 2 submissions to public comment tonight, and I'll read both of those. Members of the board, on behalf of GCEA leadership, I want to pass along some concerns and recommendations that have come as a result of many individual communications with our members, survey responses, and anecdotal data. First, there is significant concern among our members still with respect to communication. As I have stated and provided evidence of previously indirect, confusing, misleading communication from the top of the school system created anxiety and unnecessary work for our members. After filing a system-wide grievance, the system agreed to make changes, and some have been made to some positive effect. There are still gaps, but the fact that communication on system-wide decisions is now going to all staff in the same format is an improvement. I want to specifically credit Dr. Wilson, Dr. Miller, and Mr. Edwards for working with GCEA to make sure that that happened. GCEA is committed to continuing that cooperation going forward. Next, the vast majority of our members are still feeling the overwhelming effect of the increase in workload that the hybrid schedule has created. As with communication, the grievance filed by GCEA led to some meaningful efforts to reduce that increase, but there is still work to be done. GCEA is committed to continued collaboration with the system in these efforts as well. Health and safety also continue to be a concern for many of our members. While the appropriate cleaning supplies and hand sanitizers are or should be in the building by the time you get this email, the grievance filed and the effort it took to convince GCPS leadership to make the change should not have been necessary. GCEA leadership is still dealing with concerns over students in indoor spaces with staff closer than 6 feet for longer than 15 minutes. To be fair, in instances that we have made you aware of, changes have been made after we have notified Human Resources. It should not have come to that though. The system and GCEA agreed that 6 feet of distance whenever possible does mean that in indoor spaces like classrooms, there will be 6 feet of distance. Any other situation is a setup for increases in infections. You have heard from Bob Stevens that 6 feet is a minimum requirement for indoor spaces. To that end, GCEA is stating that we believe the elected board must follow the recommendations of the Garrett County Health Department, the Maryland Department of Health, and the Centers of Disease Control. In their response to our grievance, the system has agreed to that idea. that is prudent, and the board should follow suit and uphold the commitment of its senior staff to ensure that those recommendations are followed. Furthermore, the board should heavily factor recommendations of GCHD and MDH into how to continue reopening schools. Additionally, advice from senior staff, specifically human resources, related to potential logistic problems of reopening as made and might continue to create should weigh heavily in that decision as well. Every county has been given the authority to make the safest decisions based on the health metrics in their area. As of now, those metrics are bad and getting worse. With the holidays coming, those numbers are unlikely to get better. GCPS would be wise to examine what is happening right now in Allegheny County, where the system has been forced into virtual-only learning due to the inability to adequately staff schools. GCPS does not have to end up in this situation. GCEA is committed to collaborating on whatever these decisions might bring, but will not hesitate to pursue for either of our grievances to arbitration if our members are put in unnecessary danger or do not continue to feel a decrease in the workload the hybrid situation has caused. GCEA leadership has ensured that no further decisions relative to hybrid schedule will be made without first consulting to us. To date, no information about any changes has been provided. GCEA leadership, therefore, is under the assumption that the current schedule of the hybrid plan will not change. To be clear, our members emphatically believe that cohorts and virtual-only Wednesdays are vital to maintaining adequate safety and time to prepare for as long as GCPS is in the hybrid model. Finally, GCEA must continue to assert that workload and health and safety are all legal topics of bargaining as per Section 6-408 of the Education Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. No article of the negotiated agreements can supersede the right of the association to both grieve and bargain those issues. In fact, the grievances that GCEA brought on those items has facilitated the progress that has been made on them. The right to grieve and bargain is critical to balancing the nature of collaboration, and GCEA will never abandon those rights. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Sincerely, Evan West, GCEA Uniserve Director. Thank you, Mr. West, for your comments. The final comment is from Donna Deal, and it reads, "Good afternoon. I'm aware of the upcoming Board of Education meeting this Tuesday. I would like to ask that you strongly consider keeping our students in class even with the increase of COVID cases, as well as consider extending the classroom day. My students who have returned are becoming more engaged and are beginning to exhibit the types of behavior that I would expect in a normal environment. The only issue is that there is not enough time to completely and thoroughly accomplish our tasks with a limited daily schedule. I appreciate all that you have done to ensure the safe return of our youth. I hope that this will continue and you see all sides of the issue and make the decision that is best for all involved." Donna Deal, fifth grade teacher, out 40 schools. Thank you, Donna, for your comments as well. And now we have some recognitions. The first recognition will be a Veterans Day recognition, and it will be presented by Dr. Paul.
Yeah, I think I will be doing this to Master Sergeant Donald Wilson, who's the JROTC instructor at Southern High School. And here's our proclamation. Whereas on November 11th, 2020, we observe Veterans Day, which is set aside nationally to honor the service and sacrifice of men and women of our armed forces and veterans. And proclaiming the first Veterans Day in 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower called on all citizens to solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom, and let us reconsecrate ourselves to the task of promoting an enduring peace, so their efforts shall not have been in vain. And if we are to pass forth the torch of freedom from generation to generation, Veterans Day must also be a day of education, wherein children must be taught the foundational principles of our country and instilled with a sense of duty, honor, and responsibility for its preservation. And the recognition of our veterans goes beyond their past or current sacrifice on the battlefield to our appreciation of those who, by answering the call of duty, have inspired our nation with their courage, compassion, and dedication to their communities and citizenry. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Garrett County Board of Education hereby expresses our most sincere gratitude to the many living veterans and to those who paid the ultimate price for our freedom, resolve ourselves to upholding their legacy of justice, liberty, and opportunity for all. Be it further resolved that we desire to honor our veterans by encouraging our employees in their teaching of the history of our veteran sacrifices and the importance of their contributions. Be it further resolved that we thank our veterans and veterans organizations for their service in our community, especially as it relates to their programs to educate children about America's foundational principles and the value of their preservation. And be it further resolved that the public schools shall conduct appropriate patriotic exercises in accordance with Title 7, Section 103, Section 105 of the Maryland Education Code. That's a lot of words. That's great. But thank you, and thank you for being here today. And would you like to share any words?
Just truly honored. That I don't even know what to say with all the veterans. That's you know, my career just pretty much will come to an end on February 1st. It'll be almost 30 years, and it's just been an honor and a blessing to opportunity to serve my country. And I get to come home, and I get a chance to serve at Southern High School as a JROTC instructor. So thank you all.
And we are very happy to have you. Or in front of the flag? Yeah, that's pretty, that's the flag, yeah. Good.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We really are. That's why I think you will.
Yes, they-
Especially once we all.
Right.
Wonderful. We're very happy.
Well, thank you for taking time out this evening.
Sure,
All right,
thank you.
Never had that.
Please, thank all of your veterans. Yes,
I will.
welcome.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
Have a good evening.
The iPad.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Has some pictures in
All right.
it. Rodney, you
Our
want?
next recognition will be School Psychology Awareness Week, and Mr. Blackwell will make that presentation.
Dr. Lovett?
If people can hear me, I'll take off my mask just for a second. So, we're happy you're here today to represent the school psychologists, important work that they do. And the board is glad to give you this proclamation. And it says, whereas all children and youth learn best when they are healthy, supported, and receive an education that enables them to strive, grow, and thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. And whereas children's mental health is directly linked to their learning and development, and the learning environment provides an optimal context to promote good mental health. And whereas sound psychological principles are integral to instruction and learning, social and emotional development, prevention, early intervention, and school safety, and supporting culturally diverse student populations. And whereas school psychologists are specially trained to deliver a continuum of mental health services and academic supports that lowers barriers to teaching and learning. And whereas school psychologists are trained to assess students and school-based barriers to learning, as well as individual strengths, utilize data-based decision-making, implement research-driven prevention and intervention strategies, and evaluate outcomes and improve accountability. And therefore, we, Garrett County Board of Education, do directly hereby proclaim November 9th through 13th, 2020 as School Psychology Awareness Week in Garrett County, Maryland, and commend observance to all of our citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Our school psychologists weren't able to be here this evening, but I've been doing some school psychology work lately, but it certainly has its own discipline to work with students and hopefully look at their unique skills and strengths and weaknesses to better program.
And certainly, Dr. Larver, you know, we've worked together for years on mental health and issues with behavioral health, both in the schools and in the community. So I know you and your staff do a great job on this. Thank you. Yeah, take a picture.
Want to flags again?
Well, how you wanna go?
It looks better,
Better over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause you got the paper on the wall.
Close the door, there's nothing about it.
Yeah, it's close the door.
It's moved a little bit, but now.
I got it.
Time's run out.
I'm taking you with me.
Time's run out.
It was Rodney.
It's funny every time.
You think I'm funny every time? I don't know, I'm getting a little old now. I'm still smiling at me, so.
I was smiling.
You can say it with the eyes.
Thank you for
You can.
Yeah, yeah, we'll try that.
But it's weird, it'll load part of it, not the whole thing, that's what I understand. You know what I
Our
mean?
last, presentation will be American Education Week, proclamation by Mrs. Siebel.
Yes, I'd like to invite Heather Ross to come up, please. Heather is a music teacher at Crellin and Broadford, and she's also a past Garrett County Teacher of the Year. So welcome. I'd like to give you this. American Education Week is the November 16th through the 20th, and I requested that I be able to do the honor, since this will be my last year of giving out this award. I've been privileged to give it many times in the past, since I've been here so long. But anyway, whereas public education is the backbone to our democracy, providing young people with the tools they need to maintain our nation's precious values of freedom, civility, and equality. And whereas by equipping young Americans with both practical skills and border intellectual abilities, schools give them hope for and access to a productive future. And whereas education employees, be they custodians, maintenance staff, teachers, assistants, school nurses, bus drivers, food service staff, secretaries, and administrators, demonstrate passion, perseverance, and excellence on behalf of all students. And whereas schools are community linchpins, bringing together adults and children, educators and volunteers, business leaders and elected officials in a common enterprise. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Education of Garrett County, do hereby salute our dedicated education employees and proclaim November 16th through the 20th, 2020 as the 99th annual observance of American Education Week. And it's signed by all the board members. Thank you so much. Would you like to say anything, Mr. Ross?
Sing us a song.
Yes.
I'm not allowed to sing.
Then bring your drum. You should have brought your drum.
Should have brought some steel pans. No, I just have to say that I've always been proud to be part of Garrett County Public Schools and the educators that are in our buildings and how hard we work every day. And this year has just taken that to a whole new level.
Yes.
And I'm proud to be part of the educators in Garrett County. And I'm proud to work with the people I work with.
Heather, you're no more proud of us
Thank
than
you.
we are.
We are you guys, yes, yes. We've been taking that sign and the pictures.
I think so. Maybe somebody's been seeing it.
I've been in front of it.
I don't go see it.
Can you?
I'm gonna walk in down.
There you go.
We have a smile in your mouth. Yeah, do it when you put your eyes, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm tired to it.
Good, all right.
It's really hot.
Yes, of course. Some of your principals can display it proudly. Okay, did you get yours to come up?
You're welcome.
The type of alcohol.
I'm gonna, I'm gonna turn around all.
I didn't know all that.
I'm gonna put the name sheet in front of him. Oh, yeah. And then why you were following me so closely?
Roll this around when we get down here.
So
I'm gonna shut mine down, I'm gonna go to settings and make sure I'm online. CPS guest. Hey, in here, I don't know anything about that.
All right. I'll hold it.
Okay, we've now moved down to new business. We have, one item under new business, and that's the FY 2022 budget calendar. And Mrs. Schweitzer will come in and.
You can just actually sit, yeah. We're just trying very hard to stay, within our distance, our physical distance.
So this is a informational item for the board this evening. It is time to start discussing the FY 2022 operating budget. And, what the board has here is that calendar, the timeline of what we're looking, with the superintendent and myself as are presenting, in order to achieve, our approved operating budget. Are there any questions about the calendar?
The only thing I would add would be that, you know, right now, it is the dates are tentative, but we, you know, some of the preliminary work you can see there, you know, within the departments. And then, you know, when we start working with the board on the operating budget, these are tentative, but we did, you know, we did work out kind of a timeline to get it approved within enough time, to meet all of the, deadlines, so.
Yeah, these are pretty much reciprocal dates from
Pretty much, yes,
our past years.
they are, yes.
Yes, and we tried to show that there are 6 opportunities for public input,
Mhm.
public feedback, and also, you know, there's quite a bit before November 24th that has been already happening. But that's all management, principals, building administrators, and the central office team already started working.
One question, have you gotten any feedback from any of your meetings as to what direction we might receive and how late that direction would be, in terms of holding harmless for, for student losses and those types of things?
So any type of state aid that would result from a hold harmless would have to be a legislative action because of the way that the Maryland formulas work. We actually, next Tuesday on our weekly CFO meeting, we are actually having Rachel Heiss, she's from the Department of Legislative Services, and then Steve Woolham, or John Woolham from NABE will also be on the call to start discussing the legislative issues and what we're looking at. We did, all 24 LEAs did submit several weeks ago early estimates of enrollment numbers to the Department of Legislative Services so that they could start ahead of time working on what it was looking like. So that they could model a couple different options for the legislature.
Yes, certainly that could impact,
Very much so.
our final budget in the end. There'll be a lot of,
So
loose
again,
ends there that we won't know until.
right, and that's hopeful for the state side. It's still, there's not been any discussion about the local leadership effort.
Sure. Okay. Any other questions?
No, just
Yes,
a
Mom.
comment, not a question. I see though, like you said, that we have different, ones on here. We have several opportunities for public feedback, and it looks like it'll be discussed in our January board meeting, February board meeting, March board meeting, and April board meeting. Yes.
Yes, and we would like to get back on a schedule to present to the Board of County Commissioners. Unfortunately, last year, due to the very urgent and abrupt closure, that didn't happen, but it was not our intent, to miss that meeting. So we're adamant that we would like to get back on that schedule.
Sure. Okay, what's an informational item only, so thank you, Supervisor, for the information. Look forward to getting started on next year's budget. Okay,
Thank you.
policies and procedures, JCB admission to school out of attendance area policy and procedure, and this is an action item tonight.
Good evening again.
Evening.
There was, this one change that was made, under the scope. Looking at the reasons, why a student, might have their needs met better in a different school setting. We had removed, the school settings that talked about examples.
We had, quite a bit, or not quite a bit, we did have a discussion at the last board meeting concerning this policy. You have the policy in front of you. Is there any questions that you'd have for Dr. Lawver? If not, we'll move right along. Yes.
We've added 8 and 9, and it says the one is, foster care and the other one is homeless. Do we have many students impacted by that in the county?
Oh, yes.
Is
We
our,
just had our homeless roundtable meeting today, but our count for October was 42 students that are homeless. And that's a lot higher than in the past.
mhm.
Yes, we do have a lot. Some families are doubled up. Families, they get sub-centers, working with different agencies, and we work with agencies to help meet those needs. Certainly. And people are so generous to the schools that, as far as school supplies, you know, backpacks and notebooks, and we have lots of materials in that way.
Mhm.
But those homeless and foster care numbers have been going up. Vulnerable students.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there aren't foster homes throughout, those are in high demand as well, so sometimes it really is in the best interest of the child to keep them in their home school, like not necessarily be their foster school, their foster home school. So that's provision number 8, but those numbers are also always higher than we like them to be.
Okay.
I have another, sorry.
I still, have concerns, about the policy. The fact that, I'm still concerned about the Swan Meadow area, which if you look at that map that we have, the Swan Meadow area and Younglades area is the same. Then we have students that live right by the school, and they have to fill out a form every year to be able to go to the school because they're told they're not in that, in the area. Also, I read, not in the policy, but in the procedure that a student must go to their school. And then we go on to say reasons why they can change. But I think, it seems to me a lot of people, we looked, I think a couple of years ago when we did the study, we did find out that it pretty much balances itself out. If you get the same amount of kids in accident, even though some come from Broadford, but some of accidents kids go to Broadford. So it seems like it's an opportunity for parents to figure out where it's easiest for them to get their children, how best to get their babysitting situations and all of those. And I'd just like to make sure that those opportunities are still available. And I can't find at the moment where the sentence is that says students should go to their home school.
But, if they generally, if they need, to be at a different school for childcare, it's, because one of the parents is working in that different area, And, those parents are very appreciative that they're able to make those arrangements, to go along with their employment.
Right, and I hope that's not closing, this feels to me like it was closing some of that opportunity up, to those folks, because I think that's one of the things that, you know, I think would be in a smaller, county like we are, that a lot of people would like to have a choice, and I think with the fact that we have schools that are, at the northern end that aren't busting at the seams and all, that would be something that would attract people to the area is a choice. So.
Well, number 6 allows for supervision, that's otherwise unattended during school hours. They just have to provide who the adult care is. And that sentence didn't change at all from previous years, number 6. I think that is what you're, referring to as far as childcare.
And usually that's what the parents are looking at, right? Is that they'll have childcare close to where their employment is, and the children attend the school close to that childcare.
And some of the dates was changed as far as when the request.
Well, because, I mean, we get requests all year long. Now, the bulk of those do come in June, but sometimes that decision hinges on class size and not wanting to, you know, make the class size too large at a school. And you may not know that till close to the beginning of school. So you can't always just have an immediate response to that request.
Right.
No.
I think what I was questioning is what Dr. Law was talking about a minute ago. I work for the school system. I might live on the southern end of the county. However, when I applied for a job, there was no opening. So I work at the northern end of the county. And I have small children. It's more accommodating for me, for them just to ride with me to work and then attend the elementary school that I'm at. Can we still do that?
If your childcare is in that area, and generally that's what parents have to do, is they make arrangements for childcare close to where they're working. Of course, some of the schools have provided childcare, you know, like Route 40.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably talking about school-age children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking more elementary.
Yeah.
So you're working in Northern, you drop your kids off at, Accident to go to school, because that would work better for you, because you could pick them up on the way home then, and,
Yes, exactly that, and that has
That
not
goes to
changed.
the point of being the unattended.
yeah.
Yes, that has not changed at all.
Yeah,
That is
we
still
discussed those
exactly the
plans.
same.
So that's where that was my question. Where does that category fall? I mean, I know we do have some that if we did not do that, we would lose some employees probably. And it,
And if this goes to the unattended before or after school.
right, so that's the category. Okay, that was my question. Where did that fit?
So I want to ask this, under the procedure, which I know we're policy, but we don't have to pass the policy if we don't like the procedure, what's in the procedure. I did find the sentence, it says that students must attend the school designated to serve the attendance area of their bona fide residence. That's new, that's in the, and what does that mean?
Well.
Why is it there?
Unless they would make that request, the student attends the school of the district that, they reside in.
I think what the inference is, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Right.
You must attend where you live unless you have a reason to ask to go out of the area.
Right.
You know, it kind of brings to the discussion, there are many states, one close to us, that gives you total free choice. As long as you provide your transportation. The buses are gonna run this route, doesn't fit your route, you provide your transportation. If you wanna go to school B next year, you can go to school B as long as there's an opening. But we're certainly not there, but we allow people the opportunity, if the hardship has come up.
Right, and I think what we've done in the past, has worked. And I just want to make sure that nobody, that sentence, as it reads, and unless you can read into it after that parents who desire to transfer their child from the home school to another school in the district must first discuss the transfer with the principal at the one school and then the principal at the other school. So the parents, got to go themselves to those schools
Well, they need
and
to
talk
have,
to those people.
sometimes it's by phone, but they do need to have that discussion with the principal. Because they might not be aware of some things, they may have questions, principal may have questions.
May have a class that principal's already deemed as full, especially at the elementary level.
And they do have the right as a principal, if the parent wants them in a certain school and there's a history of maybe poor attendance problems, the principal may decline. Say, I want to see the child having good attendance before.
Well, I just don't deter people from putting their children in our school system and homeschooling or taking them to another county that, you know, somewhere else that allows more openness because of the fact that we decided that enough kids at Trent, you know.
I think.
They wouldn't be able to take them to another county or another state. They have to
Without
show
paying
verification.
Well, they can move.
Well, they can move, yes,
I
they can
mean-
certainly move. I don't think we've changed.
And they
This
do,
doesn't materially change that.
Not
This
at
is
all.
just a procedural thing.
Not at all.
This, that was what they had, we just put the word homeschool because it didn't clarify what school they had to call, so this clarifies that they have to call both. But that's what it always was. We aren't changing that.
It just sets forth procedures on how you can attend a school outside of your home jurisdiction. And so you need those procedures in place.
I understand that, but we've decided on policies in the past sometimes, and then you get it out there, and then it's not what you thought it was.
Yeah, I get
So I'm just trying to get it clear how this is going to work in a place where, like Swan Meadow area, where the situation is as it is there, with it being, looking like the same district as Yacht Glade, the same color on that board downstairs that's supposedly the one that tells you what, you know. I just want to make sure that people have the option to go to whichever, you know, which of the schools they prefer for their students.
What Ms. Siebel, presented on the procedures, I do question that one sentence because some of the policy procedure committee, so you were in the discussion, like if I'm just a parent coming and not reading the procedure, not the policy, and looking at background, that last sentence that is in red that was added, students must attend a school designated to serve the attendance area of their bona fide residence. Should we not put something on there to refer to look at the policy under certain conditions, you know, unless under these certain conditions refer to the policy? I mean, there's going to be a lot of parents that aren't going to attempt or move their child from one school to another school, you know what I mean? But there is some, and we did see that it did balance out pretty good when we requested it before. You know, you might lose 10 kids, but you're going to get 10 kids in that are out of area. So when I read that
The following sentence, though, I think helps to clarify that, because then it speaks to, parents who want to-
Why couldn't you add it to that sentence instead of having a period there? Students must attend the school designated to serve the attendance area of their bona fide residence unless adjustments are made or unless,
procedures are followed.
something that doesn't, I mean, that just seems like that's a definite, and it wasn't in there before.
Well, I think as
Did it
much as
start off
possible,
with
we do
parents?
want to
Did it start off with parents
people to
who,
attend their school in their area where they live. And then this gives them the ability to, if they don't want to do that, how to do that. But I don't think they're gonna read this that closely where it's gonna.
Yeah, there are no fundamental changes in the policy or the procedure that prohibits anything that was not already in the.
No, if somebody wants to do an out of area, they typically call your office and say, what do I need to do?
Either that or talk to the principal.
Talk to the principal, what do I need to do?
Oh,
Yeah, I've got a lot of people who read this, to tell you the truth. Right. Most people ask the question, what do I need to do? Can I do this?
Right, but this is what you refer back to if you have a situation that you, have to work it out. You know what I'm saying? So if you do have that situation, I want it to read so that people have an option.
I don't think it would fundamentally change the procedure if we added that clause that Charlotte just said. I mean, I think if we added those couple words, it would still have the same effect, and then it would be right there, I guess, right in the first paragraph. I don't think it changes anything, but it makes it a more positive sentence.
Because they really don't have to attend. You're telling them they have to, but they really don't have to.
But they should as much as possible.
Well, put that, should as much as possible.
But that's what it says, and then it gives them a way out. Honestly, I don't think we should encourage school choice in that sense and pitting schools against each other in that way.
Well, that's the thing that I'm just telling you from firsthand experience. In Kanawha County, where I grew up, it is. You don't know who's going to what school from year to year. It is a competition, totally a competition. And I don't know that we want to get into that.
Well,
Making it too liberal.
yeah, I don't see us getting into that. I just see it,
Well, I mean,
What if you said,
being accommodating.
what if you said it instead of supposed to attend, that students will be assigned to go to a school in the jurisdiction which they live, unless they follow this procedure.
Yeah, because the words must attend. I'm not discouraging that you shouldn't go to school that you live. I mean, most people are going to let their children go to school that the district, because you put them on the school bus and you know, they ride the bus home. I mean, well, we're just, that's who we are around here, but you know.
Would that change the wording to your
Students.
issue, I think? They'll be assigned a school in their home, they go to a school based on the jurisdiction, the school district in which they live. Unless they follow these procedures outlined or outline the processes in the procedure document.
I'd feel much better about that.
To take out number 10 and put in its place, will be assigned to.
Because that's what they are assigned to
Yeah, that's
school. Right.
Sounds better.
It does, because when you look at students must attend, and then on this one, you're giving, what is there, nine conditions when you could be, into a different school. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like they're two totally different documents.
Well, it's an exception document. You should attend the school in the district you live unless you have a good reason not to.
I guess I would have a big concern with leaving must attend, but we don't have like a huge turnover, I don't feel, the system as a whole. Like, it balances out. Like, we don't have like 100 kids from one school wanting to go to another school, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, you have that.
But that can change, I mean.
well, it could, that's why, but we're not, well, but that's not what we're saying though.
I know.
No,
Right,
we still,
that's
we
what-
still got control.
Yeah,
Right. You want
right,
There's yeah.
right. But that just,
It works for me. I'm fine with the change. Sure.
I would appreciate that.
so what was the wording again? The change that we
You
need?
want to read the wording for you?
Yeah. And this is a sentence, the student must attend, and that would be removed, and in its place it would read, students will be assigned to the school designated to serve the attendance area of the Bluffton residents.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you for considering that.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a vote then. Is there a motion on the floor to accept the JCB admissions out of school attendance area policy and proceed policy, actually is all we're voting on, with that, that was an amendment to procedure, so it has nothing to do with the motion.
Procedure, exactly.
Is there a motion to accept the policy as presented? So moved by Rodney. Second by Matthew. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the, policy as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And it's a 4-0 vote.
And when you get it changed, will you email it to us, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lawver.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna switch, just a little bit. We're gonna move to B first. We're gonna do comprehensive maintenance plan for educational facilities. And Mr. Wazlowski will also talk to us about why we have removed the CIP plan.
Well, it come back up. Let me see if it went back off. I did have something on the side.
Just go back there.
Yeah, well, I took it back there and he must be mad. You know, supposed to be right over here.
Yeah, now mine's come back on.
Maintenance plan?
Yeah, let's do that first, and then you can talk about this, to see why we took the CIP off.
Okay. All right, here this evening to request approval, to be the second read for the 2020 comprehensive maintenance plan for Garrett County Public Schools. So the change, on page 1 regarding just the interim call with one of the staff members, and I added something on page 15 about the bleachers as well. Okay.
You want me to do the recommendation first?
Yes, I do, before we have discussion.
Thank you. I recommend that we approve the comprehensive maintenance plan with the, changes that were requested that, Mr. Wazlowski made.
Okay, there is a recommendation of the superintendent on the floor. Do I hear a motion to accept the recommendation?
I make a motion to approve the comprehensive maintenance plan.
So moved by Matthew. Is there a second? Second, Rodney? Okay, we can now have discussion. Monica?
On page 15, I see where you added the indoor bleachers ordained from Garrett College and at Southern Middle. Under that, we had the home bleachers at Southern High School were relocated to the new Turfa location fall 2020. I see I know they're in the process, correct, but they're not there,
They're
so,
not there yet.
so should we have that in here since it's not really accurately, physically there just yet? Because this goes, what, November 1st, we have to have it there?
Well, actually, when it
Something?
doesn't start until when?
December 21st.
December.
I guess we still could hit the fall.
Scheduled for them to move, like, soon. I mean, they're almost done with the wall now, and it should happen. So I prefer if we left it in there as because they will be completed by fall 2020 to be relocated. Okay?
Okay. And then, where we have, I think I asked last month, where it says football home, under Southern football, visitor, Newfield. Could we not have it say turf, because we have like football, visitor, Old Field, or does it not matter? I mean, I know this is on the bleacher part, but I guess it doesn't matter. We just have, you know what I mean, when someone looks at this and you got 3 football fields at Southern, Old Field, Newfield. So, you know what I mean?
Two fields, 2 sets of bleachers.
Yeah.
Home side field, home side bleachers, 2 side bleachers.
Right, there's 2 fields, but I'm just saying, I didn't know if we should have it say, I mean, I realize this is, the replacement schedule on this, it's listed because of the bleacher repair,
Right.
but I didn't know if it should say turf. And then I have another question. Or did you have something?
Well, while we're on bleachers,
Huh?
I've heard a lot of people telling me that the bleachers on the visitor side of the northern field needs upgrades, handicap access. Yes. Probably needs replaced, but I mean, you might be able to do some repairs. Is that in this plan anywhere that we're gonna do something?
No, I recently gave a list of, to continue with our capital grant, we started with the field,
Mm-hmm.
and then we just got the track. Recently was asked for another list of items for the next round of capital
bleachers for Northern and Southern as part of the request.
The visitor bleachers.
Yeah, the visitor bleachers for both. Yes, I'm seeking, I'm gonna try to do that through the grant.
But that, and so that wouldn't be on here?
No, not yet. This is
This is
maintenance. I was gonna do that through the grant program.
Okay.
And then once we put them in, we would add it to the maintenance plan.
And it's one abstraction and then,
Yeah, well, the rubberization will happen in the spring. Okay. Between getting a company to do it now and the weather, even though it's been surprisingly warm, we just felt we better do it in the spring.
I don't think it's will last, but you never know.
And that's what they're all scared of.
Be snowing tomorrow.
Yep.
Would this be where, if we were gonna do, any roof work on Broadford that would be here? The maintenance or, because I know I look back at, a couple years ago, and it was like Broadford's roof had to be done to it immediately, that's what we were told.
Right.
But I haven't seen, I was expecting it to be, that's restoration or replacement, so if we were gonna do anything with it, wouldn't we need to have it here?
No, that's more, that would be a CIP project, comprehensive maintenance, but, as once we finish that's follow the steps as we talked about with the, CIP and the study and
The feasibility study.
feasibility study.
Yes, so it would be on,
Yeah, well, it'll be added once we go through the feasibility part of what the final project's gonna look like between Broadford and Southern Middle. We're gonna look at, I believe, the combination, renovating both as standalone, and then from that decision, once the feasibility study is presented and the decision's made, which direction to go, we would then adjust all the appropriate documentations in terms of
right,
according to what that plan is.
Right.
I
With the Broadford roof, and yes, you're correct, it would be, based on the decision, one of the first things, if we were to be done, to be added right back to it.
If we decide to go too slow.
My thought was that when we had talked about it before, I thought that I heard that it would be patched or whatever.
Yes.
And my thought, the patching, this is where that would go because it would be part of restoration, wouldn't it?
I think it says maintenance on the roof every year.
Yeah. We just had roof inspections and it did pretty well, believe it or not, in terms of where we are right now.
Well, that's good for us to know.
That is, yeah.
Well,
I didn't get good until around 40, but I'm not sure if it was another time, but,
Okay. I was just trying to figure out where we were preparing for,
Yeah.
keeping a roof there.
well, I had two more, and one was on the roof.
yes.
We just had a new roof put on Swan Meadow, so shouldn't it be in here, a TR, total replacement, because it was done?
Probably should have done.
Could we not still do that, to show that when you look back at it, that it's done?
Yep, I need to edit that to say TR for FY21.
Yeah. One minute.
And then I was thinking the same thing that the Seabolt said about Broadford. I mean, I know that we have it in the CIP and it's under the study and all that, but I mean, when I looked at this thing that we got from that group, December 10, 2019, the Garrett County Public Schools Strategic Facilities Committee report and recommendations. Well, there it says Broadford School, roof replacement is unavoidable, approximately $2.5 million. It should be done in the summer of 2020. So it worries me because since I've been on the board, it's all I've heard. That's been the elephant in the room.
Yep.
Broadford roof. And now, so somebody somewhere wasn't telling the truth, whether it wasn't as bad as we were told in the beginning, or it's just a concern. I mean, we've heard it for a long time, same as Southern Middle.
Part of it is the life expectancy of the roof and looking at that. And I'm assuming that they would look at previous inspection records of the roof probably led to that determination of what's there. And then what we're trying to accomplish on a bigger scale with
Right.
2 projects, we'll go through the study and then we'll make a determination from there.
I guess the question is, kind of, see what said, you would think that, which I think it did before, and I didn't pull it out, I have all these 6 years worth. It did have at one time restoration or partial placement or total replacement, and I just like, when you look at Broadford, it just has maintenance every year. So I guess that's just to look at it. My last question, I know I've asked this before, but to totally make sure I understand it, it's your maintenance vehicle replacement schedule. I made a copy of it. I'm not sure what page, don't really have a page. It just lists all the vehicles. Maintenance vehicle. So does that mean our vehicles, the maintenance on them, the replacements? Explain it to me, because I know I've asked before.
That is the replacement schedule for the vehicle itself.
Right, okay. So again, I wonder why the robotics vehicle and the 2 pool vehicles that we had got from the state superintendent's orders about transporting children, that you couldn't use rent vans, we have the 2 pool vehicles. Should they not be on here though, just for showing the year they are and the maintenance on them, or not? I mean, because where's the accountability with those 3 vehicles, I guess is what I want to say.
They are, in terms of the budget, they come out of a different category than maintenance. So when anything happens with the Durangos, that would come out of transportation, and then robotics vehicle comes out of robotics.
So where?
So we don't really have we just do general maintenance to those, but they're not a part of this plan.
Okay.
But they're vehicles that the Board of Ed owns, so why not be on this schedule? I just don't understand. Why is it linked to the budget item? I just don't understand.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand why we wouldn't put it on here just for that part.
We can certainly add them.
I mean, because
Still, we do all the, we do
Well,
maintenance.
that way
on
you have
them.
all the vehicles on one
Right.
sheet.
the pool vehicles basically are, say, I mean, I know we're not doing traveling now because of COVID, before if there would be a meeting downstate, and if it was available, anybody on here, anybody could use the pool vehicles, correct, if they weren't already being utilized somewhere else to save money for renting a vehicle. So they're not just for one designated.
I think just for
I think
ease
it-
of continuity to put it on the.
Yeah, we'll put it on
The
there.
other maintenance vehicles, make it easy to
Doesn't
find.
matter to me where the
Yeah,
money.
Right, and you, and when they came forward, they needing a replacement or something like that,
Easy.
you would have it here, you'd have the information on it, and you'd also be able to see the maintenance that,
No problem.
And I do, the bus that we have, I mean, I know it's for learning, yes, but should it not be on here or no? Because like it needs maintenance and that would kind of fall under, right?
yeah, we have to maintain it.
So should it not, because we have the Northern High School project car and that's not like through maintenance, that's on here. So should we add the bus too?
I put the bus on there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're just asking for all the vehicles.
You have it under transportation right now? Yes, this would go under. I'll make it fair.
Good, I'll have this. All right.
You put it on here, doesn't affect who pays for it. Right?
The maintenance document, so, okay.
Others, anything else? This is an action item. So there has,
Motion.
yeah, you have the motion on there. I'm just saying that we have made some corrections. So, certainly if you could, send us out just a completed document, that would be good. Yes, if possible.
You want the motion amended for those
With
changes?
the
Yeah,
changes.
it will have to be.
Well, we can do that now.
Yes.
So I'll change the motion to approve with the corrections that we talked about.
We had to make an amendment to the motion.
We've got to vote on the amendment first. Yeah. Then vote on the motion.
All right. I'll defer to your.
Amend the motion.
Okay, you make a motion to amend the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Matthew. Discussion? Hearing none, is, those in favor of the amendment to the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, we now have an amendment to the motion, so now we can vote on the motion. Any further discussion? Let's vote on the motion. Those in favor of the motion as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And it is a 4-0 vote for the amended motion. Thank you, Rich, for the document.
Oh, did you?
That will help us. Now, this was asking to, we pulled the CIP for discussion tonight for a particular reason, and he'll tell why it might be prudent to wait for a while.
Okay. As you're aware, we're, when the legislative session starts back up again, and the bill warrants brought back forward, we're due to possibly receive a different cost share to A&M. I've had discussions with the IAC of how to approach this. What we received in terms of, you received from the commissioners, is not a letter of support in their interpretation, for the projects that we have proposed in our CIP. We're really trying to work through this and how we can kind of still get our projects and wait for the 8911 to potentially pass. So I have a possible solution to share tonight, and we shared with Superintendent Baker. I received a phone call about 4 o'clock to kind of change things a little bit, but I have not had a chance to update that. We're still okay, but so I'm just trying to dialogue to make sure that we can get the right letter and right documentation to them, that we can still stay on track, and then still get the 8911 when it's passed. And I've got a lot of optimistic reports out of people I've been talking to downstate that we're going to end up where we need to be. Okay, so I'm still working through that.
We have assurances the IAC is okay with us getting the CIP to them after the legislative session begins.
That's what we're working on.
I mean, that's the big thing we need, is their assurance that we're okay.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to work through with them, in terms of the laws and how the submission process has to happen. I think we're going to be okay.
I had a question. When I was looking at the latest one that you sent to us, that we're not discussing tonight, there were changes from the last one we got. Do those changes not get brought back, because we voted on that?
What changed?
Well, I know one was up under, safety and security at 200,000. At one point it was under local. It's under state, but then it got changed to local in the one that you just sent us. So the 200,000, some of the,
That grant went away.
okay, but don't we have to redo we'd have to redo the CIP then, if the grant went away?
Interpretation would be the project was approved. The funding, I think, can always be, because what approved here is 8911 is going to change this all again too.
Right, I think that's what was our fundamental reason for taking it off, is because there will be changes between now and.
Kind of a moot point.
I think it would be premature to start making those changes right now, because it could change significantly before it's due.
But my thing was that we were sent out one that didn't match what I'm not saying whether you need to change it or not. I'm just saying that if the ones we have are different from the one, and there was nothing said about that.
Okay.
You had to go item to item to figure that out. So.
Mrs. Schweitzer.
So one thing that we have been doing through the budget cycle, even though it's the operating budget cycle, we have been in January or February bringing back in the CIP once we start finding out what the local government, local county has an appetite to fund. So really the reason that it was so imperative that a CIP went over to the county was for the state projects, anything that we were going to receive state participation, because their deadline is much earlier than what the county's approval is on. So, when we're trying to find the funding sources, if the state's in there, then we have to get it done before the end of October. But when there are projects that, the project's been approved, but the funding is gone, then that's when we bring it back and start discussing it during the regular, budget cycle. So.
Okay. Everybody understand why we pulled the CIP though?
Yes, so Rich will bring it back if we don't, it might not be till January or February.
Yeah, so we get affirmative as to what the split's gonna be.
Yeah.
So when it comes back to send it, the number amounts could change and,
Sure.
I guess there's a lot of things could change.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, the call I was on today, it's really at 5% is what some of the increases are landed on some of this construction stuff right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the cost of materials, you mean, and labor.
The cost of materials, so with this, our numbers are gonna be a little more.
Did you want to add something?
yeah, I just have a question because, Mr. Roslowski and I have been speaking with the IAC a lot, and we've been really, I've been talking to Mr. Weeks, and, you know, we've been trying to really figure out what 22 looks like. And until the legislative session opens, we really don't have any answers that can push the CIP forward. Really, because that 8911 concept is really the thing that's holding everything up. So, I would recommend, if it's okay with the board, that we table the CIP, provide updates, status updates of what Mr. Roslowski and myself are doing in the meantime, but then bring it back as part of the operating budget cycle. So that at that point, then the board can talk about all the projects again, and then we'll have a better idea of the funding sources at that time.
Well, in fairness, the local government's under the same, they don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
We're gonna be asked for funds, they don't know what rate they're gonna have to fund that, so, you know, we're all in the same boat together, waiting to see what legislation does.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Rich.
All right, thank you, Rich.
Okay, our next item, we're gonna go back up to continuing business, so this is gonna give us a return to learn update in terms of where we are, with, both our, bringing our students back to school and what the future may hold.
Well, thank you. And I do not have a presentation. I had hoped, to present the board with a, tentative timeline for, returning to a full day, as one of the public comments said, or, not abandoning, but, working in the cohorts to more of a 4-day, more traditional looking model. But unfortunately, in the last 3 days, now 2 Fridays ago, we saw a 1 or 2 day significant increase in the positivity rate and the fuse rate. But Mr. Stevens and I talked all weekend that weekend, and it did start trending back down. But unfortunately, the numbers countywide have started to trend back up and trend back up significantly. Both sets of numbers are over the decision tree where, it talks about, reopening. And, we've gotten a lot of correspondence that, from folks that say they want their kids back in, and we do as well. But only, as we've said, only when we know it's very safe to do so. And our schools are an integral part of the community. So when we're seeing the community spread that we are seeing, our schools numbers are very low as far as the transmission. Our student numbers are very low. Our staff numbers are also low as positive cases, but because there are now more close contacts, those people are having to stay home and quarantine and isolate. And so, we don't want to run into a situation, I think one of the public comments said, we don't want to run into the situation in Allegheny County where they didn't have enough staff. right now, we have approximately 35 staff members who are quarantining or isolating at home. Still relatively low numbers of positive cases, but we could get to a situation where we will not have enough staff to maintain in-person learning. So I want the board to consider this evening, this is not an easy decision. This is, in fact, a decision that, you know, along with reopening, keeps me up at night because, you know, I do worry significantly about our students and certainly our staff. But because the numbers are so high, and we have been in cooperation, as I said, with Mr. Stevens for 2 weeks, but significantly last week and this week, and the current metrics and the trends are just getting to numbers that are really worrying me as far as the safety of our staff and certainly our students. So I want the board this evening to consider, in an effort to be safe, returning to virtual learning from starting on Thursday for the cohort, the B cohort, and continuing till at least December 10th. That is 1 month from today. That would get us through Thanksgiving and any holiday gatherings that may or may not increase the case rate in our schools and in our county. And I think that would be a good predictor for what might happen over the Christmas break as well. Now, we did have 1 or 2 people that wrote in asking if we could close all the way through Christmas, but I think that's being a little too aggressive because we know we want our kids face-to-face with our teachers. We had a teacher write in this evening, you know, that our teachers do want their kids, and they do want their kids in the classroom, and we know that is the best way that we'll be learning. But right now, I think the board needs to consider returning to a virtual format until we get through this period of very large numbers each day in the county and certainly in the school system.
Okay, so if you would make a specific recommendation for us, we're going to have a motion in a second before we can discuss that. How do you want to make that specific recommendation to us?
Well, we would still need to work with the various bargaining groups and our teachers and our administrators to see how we would impact staff. But for students, my recommendation would be for the next month, starting on Thursday, that students return to a red virtual model. There may be some opportunity for a few kids to come in that don't have any internet access, but the recommendation would be to return to virtual learning for 1 month until we get through this patch of extremely high numbers that we're just not used to in our school system.
So the recommendation is to go to a virtual red learning environment beginning on November the 12th and concluding on the 10th of December, with the caveat that the board has a board meeting on the 8th of December.
Yes.
At which time the board will look at the trends, look at the numbers, consult with the county health department, and see if it's viable for us to return on that day.
Yes.
So that is the recommendation of the superintendent. I'm going to need a motion and a second for us to discuss that. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation.
Motion by Matthew to approve the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Seconded by Rodney for discussion. So we're now open for discussion.
One question I have, I know you've been in close contact with the health department. We've had an outbreak at one of our schools, I understand.
Yes.
Significant outbreak.
Yes.
And is the health department in concurrence with your recommendations?
Yes, we did, as I said, you know, we've been talking either via email or phone or quick Google Meet meeting, and the health department is supportive of a pause period of going to fully virtual, as I said, to get us over to see what the trend looks like over the next month. I'm hoping that I can do a joint release with, Mr. Stevens so that we can both explain the importance of, this is serious. This is very serious, and going to a red status, and based on, we had a governor's press conference this evening. Unfortunately, we weren't able to watch it because we were in the meeting, but we do understand he has put in further restrictions for the state. And so I believe that the health department will be in full support, especially since the governor has gone, to more restrictions, not less.
So how much can you talk about the outbreak that's occurring in one of our schools?
Well, there is a new, a press release did go out this afternoon to all of our media outlets, and it outlines that we have in southern area schools an uptick in individuals that have tested positive, but also an uptick in the close contacts. The outbreak is at Yoklades Elementary School, and I can say that because the state has launched a website that lists the outbreak, and they do list it by school. And so we can say that it is Yoklades Elementary School where we have had what's considered an outbreak, which is 2 or more cases that are somehow connected within that school.
And this outbreak really, the positive cases are generally the teachers?
Yes, the positive cases are teachers, and but because there's some of the classrooms were some very close contacts with students, there are several people quarantining from Yoklades Elementary School as well, students and staff. The positive cases, though, have been with staff.
And how many staff?
5.
5 staff. So this is, in my opinion, this is a very significant outbreak in that school. And,
it is.
I think, also from my perspective, there's a couple things. The positivity rate of the virus in Garrett County, the virus is going, it's higher than the state's average. We're one of the worst counties in the state of Maryland right now. The cases per 100,000 are also over 16, 17. I know back in when we started this, it's October. If our rates would have been like this, we'd have never brought, I think, the children back to school. And so I think a pause is appropriate just because of the metrics out there. I think it's incumbent upon the public to do everything they can to bring these community metrics down. That means wearing masks, not meeting in groups. The governor has put out, and a lot of the studies say small social gatherings are what's spreading this disease, and that's probably occurring in Garrett County, and it's just going to get worse as we get more and more cases.
Yes.
It's a real burden, I think, on our teachers, or not our teachers, but our nurses that are doing contact tracing, the health department, as we start to get a exponential increase in the number of cases. It's going to be very, very difficult to actually do the contact tracing, and for each positive case, there might be dozens of telephone conversations that have to be had.
Mm-hmm. Which then can lead to other telephone conversations depending on the contacts. Absolutely.
So yeah. It's unfortunate what happened at York, but actually the virus is in every zip code in Garrett County. I looked at the website tonight, and it's in every zip code. And so I think it's incumbent upon us as a board to try to do everything we can to prevent that from happening at some of the other schools. Because if it starts escalating, we won't have any choice. We won't have any teachers, and we won't have any substitutes that are willing to come into the schools and actually teach.
Correct.
And so
right now, the latest update, the 7-day positivity rate is 6%. The 7-day case rate is at 17.2. So we've inched up closer to the state number on that 7-day positivity rate, I think. We said earlier it was about 18.
I think state positivity rates 5 or something.
Oh, okay.
Cases per 100,000.
Cases per 100,000, yeah.
I think the other consideration too is what's happening in our neighboring counties as you look at Mineral County, Allegheny County, and transmission there, and then the back and forth between our counties, both staff-wise and our travel. So I think we have to keep that in mind. you're looking at 35 now, and if that inches up, it becomes very hard, as Rodney said, to get subs and facilities roles. And that could affect not just the in-person, but also the virtual line.
You know, a couple of statistics, we about dropped out of our chairs when we heard them. You know, the 35 staff members equates to 7% of our entire staff in the county. You start thinking you've got 7% of your staff that can't work for either positivity or because they've been contact traced. Then the other part of that is many of those contact trace people have not tested yet. So we don't know how many of those people, once they test, will end up being positive, and thus there'll be a contact trace that falls from them. So, you know, this really doesn't have an end in sight. That's the scary part. We can't predict an end in sight at all. And, you know, when you look throughout the county and you all of a sudden you start seeing those numbers on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I mean, there are alarming numbers for a county this size. And, I think we do have to be very serious about where we are at the moment.
You know, and I said, you know, how serious I believe it is. And I think one thing I think the board needs to, the public who's watching and the folks that will see this later, there will probably be some criticism because we are making this decision this evening. We haven't really talked about it out in public. The teachers aren't aware that we were going to consider this evening. But on Friday, we had one case. And yesterday, we started seeing this happening late last night, and it really exploded today. You know, you were right, the numbers that knocked you over, we didn't have that. You know, we had a few cases, we did have an outbreak, we worked right through that outbreak, those students were sent home, they were back to school, and things were working. But yesterday and today, as you predicted what happened, Mr. Gladfelty, because you're an expert with us, it has happened. It happened very, very quickly. And so, you know, we do like to consult folks and certainly work with teachers and our administrators before we make these kinds of decisions. But because it happened so quickly, and I don't see any end in sight, nor does the health department, I don't know that we have another choice right now.
And I don't think we can point blame at the school system because we were back in session, but that's what's causing this upsurge in community cases. It was bound to get here eventually, and once it gets here, there's going to be transmission person to person. If people aren't careful on social distancing, on social gatherings, and in fact, the first outbreaks weren't associated with anything associated with the school. But unfortunately, once, you know, our teachers are members of the community, and so they when they go home after work, they're community members, and you know, they're subject to being exposed to the virus in a community setting. And then when they come back to school, it's possible to transmit it from teacher to teacher, teacher to student. So I think it would be prudent really to just take a little break here. We already have our distance learning platforms up and running. We're not stopping the educational process. In fact, we would be doing exactly what most of the other jurisdictions in Maryland are still doing. We just got to jump on everybody. Yeah. But it might be a good idea to take a break right now to see what happens with these community metrics.
Well, and many like us that have brought certain groups in and grade bands have had to make this decision as well in Maryland.
Yeah, there were no number of counties the last day or two have gone back to virtual.
So I don't know what's going on with the other counties. I have meetings at the state the next week, and so we'll, I'm sure, because it's not just their county, the whole state is starting to.
Oh, no, it's definitely not just us.
The other thing you have to consider, hospitalizations. Are there enough ICU beds in this area? I think they're reaching capacity right now. I'm not sure if somebody requires hospitalization in Garrett County, what the plan is. But I think that's a real concern of mine.
Me too.
Other questions, comments? Yes.
So, just to be clear, stage red, that means stage red. So we're putting a furlough on extracurriculars, all school meetings.
Yes.
That's what I assume.
If the board votes that way, yes, that's unfortunately.
It's unfortunate.
So we've got to get the word out in about, give or take, 24 hours
In
and change.
very
So
short order, yeah.
what's your plan to make sure every student?
Well, well, we have already scheduled an internal cabinet meeting first thing in the morning, and hopefully we can include principals so we can start, making sure we get the word out correctly. We do want to provide some time if the board, decides, votes to do this, provide time for students to get the things that they need to learn virtually for the next few weeks. So we will have some, it was different than we had in the spring. Remember, there was no access to the building whatsoever for students or staff. They have not made that unless the governor said that today, and I don't think that he did. So we do have some plans to have students come in very, very, very small doses to pick up things that they need.
All right.
Very good question.
Sure.
Thank you, Garrett.
I really hate to do this. I think, it makes me very sad. But then I think of the alternative, since we do have this situation with the teachers, I guess if we continued on, we could get to the point where we didn't have teachers to do virtual. So I think that's one thing that people need to think about. We need to try to keep them in, and if they're teaching from home, then they will be in, hopefully. So it's hard. It's, the whole thing's been hard all the time we've gone through it. I'm glad we have had opportunity to come back, and I know that the students are getting used to going to school, even though it's for most of them, it's only 2 days a week.
It makes me sad too, Mrs. Seabold. I've told so many people what a mood lifter it was after all the work we did this summer to see the buses rolling again and to be around kids. It absolutely is very sad, and it's not something we want. It's not something I want to recommend, and I know it's not something we want to do. But I think it is the right thing to do, and hopefully it will be for just that short period of time.
I liked what Jared just said. His concern was the 1 day notice. That still is, and I understand the urgency because of the caseload has increased from Friday till today. But that is a concern for parents that need to find daycare, for teachers to make sure. I know it is virtual, but for the ones, maybe they need to give them something that would be there Thursday and Friday, and then the group that's there on Monday and Tuesday. And then I look at, you said, look at my calendar, the dates would be November 12th to December 10th. And my concern is Thanksgiving. We know that families all gather for Thanksgiving, the holiday. That's just a given. Even if it's just close family, you get together and be thankful. So if you would even look at 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, that would almost be like December 14th, then, we don't know what the future holds, but, another big event people will be together is over the Christmas holidays. We're off a week then, but then I look, if you wait till Christmas and you look, then that might not be till January 11th if you allow, because if you are exposed, the 2 weeks is the ideal 14 days to quarantine, and that would give you your time to quarantine.
Well, that's exactly why we didn't look at, I didn't say just 2 weeks. That was my first thought, to get right after Thanksgiving. But then that would not account for anybody that may contract it from a family member over the Thanksgiving holiday. So we would have almost 2 weeks after the Thanksgiving holiday by the 4 weeks. And, we could extend it. Hopefully we won't have to, up to Christmas. And hopefully we can get kids back in for a few weeks until Christmas. But we'll have to decide what trends look like on that, towards that time.
I would say that the school system's not a casualty of it's not that we've got the virus. The fact is that it's here. And if we don't follow the rules and stay separated and all of those type of things, then we just continue to spread it. So actually, you know, more or less the fact that we've got people that are getting it, other than the kids and all, is causing a lot of
I have another question that I've been hearing this out in the public. This doesn't have to do with the closing, but it goes with the school. You know, eventually we'll have snow days. Sometimes they're November, sometimes December. Now, the question is, do we have to get approval from the state? Because now we're equipped virtual for the day, you know, maybe we'll be totally virtual then. Maybe we'll have students in school, but if there would be a snow day and nobody could go report to school, would it be counted a snow day, or would our virtual learning count? Do you know if there's any discussion downstate on
Yeah,
that?
there's been a lot of discussion. We're trying to work that out with the state superintendent. Right now, there are several things that are unknowns about whether we will be able to do that. Right now, they say that we're not to close for, you know, just go to red, you know, at a day's notice for a snow day. But we are working, HR is working with GCA to look at some things that we can do to get the, you know, get our days in, whether it be virtual, but still keeping the kids safe if we're back, you know, and keeping the buses safe. We're working on a plan, but we're not far enough yet and don't have enough information to make any recommendations at this time.
Right. A lot of it is the state's decision though, because the state of Maryland was not set up for building blizzard days or
Exactly.
whatever other
Never
counties
has
do
been.
some states.
However, now that every district has some form of virtual learning, it makes sense to us to be able to do that as they do in other states.
I guess the sooner we know.
You have a Hurricane Sandy, like we had.
Right, that
Where the
was,
electric
yeah,
was off.
but we had to, but there was a state emergency then, and I think we even had to still ask for waiver at the end, you know, so, yeah, even when we had Sandy.
So I guess the sooner we would know would be better, then we could everybody would know, parents, staff, you know, when if
Yeah, as soon as.
it would be a bad day, then you would know, like, does my child need to log on for virtual learning? Does it count, or do we not have anything at all because it's a day we miss and we have to make up?
Exactly. Very good question, but we're just not ready
Right.
yet to, put a plan forth yet.
As we can get a straight answer, we'd like to know that too.
Yes,
Oh,
very
Well,
much
do you
so.
think teachers will be able to opt to continue to go in and teach some of their classroom or?
Well, there will be a number, well, that's the kind of thing that we have to work out, but, there will be a number of people that are not able to work from home, teach from home, so we will have a number of staff that probably will need to come in, but we're gonna try and work all that out as quickly as we can.
So in this month period, what about meals and that type of thing? How are we gonna feed them?
That'll be another thing we have to work out as well. So we're meeting first thing tomorrow morning if the board
So
approves.
there's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was a shock to me to hear about this outbreak, when I got here tonight, and that's the first time I heard of it. And, I've been closely watching the trends, and they weren't looking good. And so we might have come to this conclusion anyway, but really having a major outbreak in one of our schools, and you might call it minor, but it seems like there's enough teachers and enough contacts, you know, that are affected by it, that it becomes sort of major in my eyes.
Well, most of our schools are relatively small, and for that number of staff, it is major. That's a lot of people for a.
And it can happen in any school, and
And it certainly
with
could.
With the amount of community spread that we have.
Well, we have some significant problems in a couple, three other schools.
Yeah.
It's not just one school. I mean, there
No,
are
no.
3 or 4 other schools that have significant problems in them that could escalate into major problems within a couple days.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing I think you have to really come to grips with is 35 staff members are unable to work, and we still don't know how many of those are gonna be positive. We just know they can't work because they're being quarantined at the moment, but we've not got tests back yet. So we have no idea how far this could spread, but we know it's spread to the point now that 7% of our staff unable to work is a significant number.
Yes, it is.
Okay, that being said, there is a motion on the floor. The motion reads that we will take a pause, and I think that's the proper word to use, and go to virtual red from November the 12th, and take that pause until the 10th of December, unless the Board of Education on their meeting on the 8th would either perhaps say, look, we're going to start back on the 9th, or we're going to go further. because of the trends, because of the numbers, because of consultation with both, GCEA and our partners that work in our schools every day, and along with the, health department, as to what, their guidance are as well. So, that is the motion, or that is the recommendation. There is a motion and a second, so we'll need to take a vote.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
before we,
Mhm.
you used a few more words, I think the superintendent did, maybe that were in the motion.
Okay,
And
okay.
we just want to make sure that we have the exact right words of the motion.
Okay, let's, you have those, Karen, I tried to interpret them, I guess, more so. Karen, do you have the exact words of the motion?
I had motion for students to return, or to go to RED virtual learning model on Thursday, November 12th, 2020, through, up till, Thursday, December 10th.
Okay, that is exactly the motion that we're voting on, with my embellishment. Thank you, thank you. That being said, those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay, I wish we had another week.
Okay, so we have 3-1, and it is thereby passed.
And that includes all extracurricular activities,
That
correct?
includes
I mean, I know we didn't say that, but should that be in the clause? I mean, everybody will understand, okay.
Everybody's home.
Just to make sure that everybody
I
understands.
think we said it, but maybe we didn't say it enough. We are encouraging teachers to work from home if at all possible. We're encouraging you to work from home. We're encouraging people to do the best thing we can. And Governor Hogan tonight said in his press conference, he's encouraging all businesses to telework if at all possible. So we're encouraging teachers to follow suit as much as they can. I'm sorry.
Baker, how will you get out to the parents and everybody? I guess would be through, the phone calls that are recorded, through Facebook, email about the meals and all that.
Yes, like I said, there's quite a bit that we have to work out first. We will get that worked out as quickly as we can, and we will put that through all the usual channels of school messenger, Facebook.
Right, and the hotspots, the internet connectivity, that was another thing that was brought up.
Well, thank you, Superintendent Baker, for the information. Thank you for the information, but thank you for at least guiding us through what you're aware of, and hopefully we'll all get through this safely. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
We all get through safely. Okay, Garrett, I'm sure
I get to follow all that.
things you were probably going to talk about may not be the things you do now. But,
Sorry.
it's your turn.
Well, I didn't write very much because I anticipated something like that coming along. I was reading the news. But I will say this is one of the hardest SMOG reports to write. Last week I thought I was the happiest I've ever been giving a SMOG report. You know, perhaps this is one of the saddest. But, you know, it's a necessary thing that needs to be done, and I don't envy your job over the next 24 hours.
Thank you.
There's a lot of work to do.
Yes, we do.
But I will fill you in on what the student body has been up to this past month. Election processes have begun at both county high schools. They are being conducted virtually. Every student has received a ballot created at the central office through the Google Forms, which is like an online survey service for free, sent to their Garrett County email. And they can log into their email and exercise their school civic duty. And once these governments are instated, we are going to hit the ground running and reinstate the Garrett County Association of Student Council. The other night, I took my two elementary school age brothers to the Title I night at Rock Elementary School. That was a very special experience. It was my first one that ever attended in this position. For those that don't know, there was a nice meal. You had turkey, essentially a turkey sandwich with gravy and potatoes, and there were cartoons, a movie film shown, info from Mr. Schilp about Schoology and information for the parents in that way. I'd like to just give a huge shout out because I was very impressed with Principal Donna Ashby and her team and Mr. Chuck Troutline for organizing the technology side. Just like a driving movie, it was very nice.
Well, good.
You know, not much else to report on beyond what we just discussed, but it is the spirit of Thanksgiving, and we won't see each other until after Thanksgiving. I'll say a few things I'm thankful for. Thankful for all my coworkers here on the board, especially Ms. Seabold and her decades of service to our community here. And been a great friend and
You'll get her crying.
Thank you.
really thankful for our time together.
Thank you.
I'm thankful for my job here on the board. Wake up thankful every day that I'm able to represent the students like this. Maybe would have prayed for better times, but such is life. Thankful for my own life, health, and sound mind, and that of my family. And I'm thankful for members of the Garrett County school system and the Garrett County community for their kind words of feedback and encouragement. So I'll leave you with that. Answer any questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you, it was very nice, very kind.
We should remember what we're thankful for. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Very well put. Okay, any board member updates? I'm sure.
Let me just say one thing? I think we owe a debt of gratitude to the Garrett County Health Department. They have been working with us. I heard tonight on the phone till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. This contact tracing is not an easy thing, and they have limited staff over there to do it. And I'm sure, you know, those consultations are really invaluable for our staff and everything. So, if anyone in the health department is listening, I think you guys are doing a great job.
And Dr. Quarter as well.
Dr. Quarter,
Yeah.
too.
As well. She's been
Yeah.
valuable.
And that made me, when we had a little meeting with Dr. Quarter, and we talked about the nurses being the ones that were in charge of contact tracing in the schools. It was encouraging for me to hear that they had gone through specific training on how to do contact tracing, our nurses, and every single case, Dr. Quarter was consulting with the nurses about how to handle it and everything. And so I think that close collaboration is really important during these times. And so I'm glad we have that in Garrett County. I'm not sure every jurisdiction in Maryland has that close of a relationship with their health department.
I don't think so either, but we do. That is absolutely right.
And the other thing I have to say, I got a meeting on Saturday, a retreat for the board.
You're gonna go to a different room in your house?
Yeah, you're supposed to bring your own meals. It's a 4-hour retreat. Emily Farley down in Allegheny County is going to be heading it up. She's a new president of the Mays Executive Committee. So I look forward to working with her and the other people on that board. I'm still on the legislative committee, so I'll get you the information as soon as they have the legislative priorities. I was talking to Karen today and trying to find if they actually have released it yet, but they haven't. But they do, you know, obviously the blueprint will be one of the things that's on the agenda, the Build to Learn Act, those type things that we depend on for funding. So when I get that information, I'll try to send it out to everybody immediately.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rod. And congratulations on being put on the legislative
Yeah, I think
positions that you.
they're happy people will agree to do it, I think.
Well, we thank you.
We're very fortunate that we have you to represent us. Yes.
Yes. Well, Garrett and I, we've been working together. He said he'd say something nice about me.
Yes, we're gonna.
But, I would like to, just put a thought out there. Over, the years I've been on the board, when I began, we did not have a student board member. And the student board members, the student members worked. I remember all the way back, it was a student back in '96 that worked on it as far as getting a student member on the board. So most of the time that I have been on the board, there has been a student member. And I think I could say that I've learned a lot from them and been so very proud of what they've been able to do for themselves and also as representatives for our county and for the students here in the county. So I'd like for the board to think about the possibility of a scholarship for the student board member. Now, if they stay 2 years like we've been blessed to have some, I would think it would still be the same amount as if 1 year, because we don't want people competing for the scholars, you know, for the scholarship itself. But I mean, they come, come to our meetings, they go with us to different occasions, you know, that we have. They visit the schools. they come and report to us and let us know what's going on with the student body and their organization. So over time, I feel a closeness, to our students through our student board member. So, maybe we could you could think about that, and we could talk about it, you know, in December.
I think it's a great idea.
It's called the Charlotte Seabold Student Discussion.
Well, you don't have, but Jared will tell everybody that that's the name of it.
You might be interested to know that there's probably going to be legislation filed this year to allow the student member of the board to have a vote. I think one of the jurisdictions has a representative that's going to introduce that legislation. Not sure it'll go anywhere, but I know that's something you mentioned earlier that you'd be interested in.
I have spoken with that young lady, and
Have you?
we'll see if it goes anywhere.
But then you would almost get another board member if there would be a tie.
That's right, that would be.
So in some jurisdictions, it might be okay, depending on the amount of board members.
Anne Arundel County is going to be.
There are a couple districts that have voting rights,
Anne
not
Arundel
on
has-
everything, but there's
Yeah.
certain things. that
I
they
think,
want.
yeah, I think there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with voting, and I'm not sure that, I'm not really sure how, every student would look at that. I mean, I think it's something that needs to be discussed.
Well,
There's a very nice graphic put out by the Maryland Association of Student Councils that has a list of the full scholarship and voting rights. None, such as Garrett County, a recorded opinion vote, such as in the minutes, or a full voting rights. That's a very liberal policy. That's only shortly that I could think of off the dome. But we're in a minority that don't have any voting rights. Just having aye or nay in the minutes, I think, would be a huge step in the right direction.
I think it's a big responsibility on a student, but, you know, some thought as far as, like you said, how you actually, as a student, felt about it would probably, be helpful also, yes. Thank you, that's all I had.
Anything else? We are going to leave our public session in a moment, we go back to executive sessions, we only recess. Anything else? Okay, at this time, we'll be leaving public session, and we're returning to executive session to finish the items that we did not get through, but we thank you for being with us this evening. We look forward to seeing you on December